Good evening. It's 6 p.m. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for Wednesday, March 25th at 6 p.m. here in the Village Hall Boardroom. Tonight we'll be continuing over our proposed budget, and we will also hold a public hearing for the full year 26-27 proposed budget. If anybody has joined us who wants to speak, please step over to the table and make sure that you've signed up to speak. We'll be working from that list. And then the only thing that's not on our agenda is I need to add an executive session. So after we finish the discussion with item number 2, we'll be entering executive session. And for anybody who's in the room or anybody who may be joining us on video, we will be calling an end to the meeting because we will enter executive session. We will not entertain any further business after that, and we'll come out and exit the meeting. So, Megan, would you take roll call, please?
Trustee Briggs?
Here.
Trustee Banoski?
Hello there.
Trustee Wojka?
Hiya.
Trustee Nazarian?
Here.
Mayor Domeratz?
Here. Okay, so we are going to enter the public hearing in just a moment, but prior to that public hearing, there's a couple of things that I need to clear up. And it appears that there has been a rash of social media this week, and one of those items talks about mold at our firehouse and that we're not taking care of what's required by the fire department. So I would like to clarify for anybody who is not here on Monday evening, which none of you were, and you may have been viewing, was we met with PJ, our chief, who is the representative of the fire department, and we went through the capital plan and we went through the operating budget and discussed everything on there. And at the end of the discussion, that included purchasing a new fire engine, which is $1.3 million, purchasing a few chief trucks, mold remediation and building review that is going to happen after that, some roof replacements. And upon the completion of that discussion, I asked the chief, was there anything that was left out of this budget that you need? And he said, no, everything was complete in it. So I'm sharing that with you if you have chosen to come here tonight to speak about the fact that we are not budgeting what was requested for the fire department. The next thing that I'd like to address before anybody gets up to speak is there was a social media post that went out and said that there's an 8% increase in our budget. There is an 8% of what we need to meet our operating expenses. There is an 8% increase. But the taxable amount that taxed residents will see on their bill is not 8%, it's 4%. And before we even get into that, every member of this board had the opportunity to talk before we entered these budget discussions to state how they felt about that 4% and if they could support it. Every single member of this board stated that they supported it. So I just want to share that with the public before we enter public comment. And I'll go through the procedures for our public comment, and then we'll open things up and you are welcome to come. So the public may speak only during the citizens forum or during a public hearing. The speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, that's me. Speakers must step to the front of the room. Please come up to the microphone and state your name and your address. Speakers must limit their remarks to 5 minutes or less unless a majority of the board allows them additional time. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. That includes coming up and reading a whole series of letters. If you have letters that you are carrying to this public hearing, you're welcome to leave them with Megan, our clerk treasurer, and she will make sure they're distributed to the board so that they have an opportunity to review them. Speakers may not yield any remaining time. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor or the presiding officer, interrupt a speaker during their remarks, but only for the purpose of clarification or information. All remarks must be addressed to the board as a body and not to individual board members. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. We will have no applause. We will not have any cheering, booing. None of that will happen, and if you can't control yourselves, I will ask you to leave. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications, and those should be addressed to mac@fairportny.gov. That would go to Megan's office, and she will make sure that we all get a copy of it. With that, I'll open the public hearing.
The first speaker is Bob Cantwell, 3 Fifth Avenue.
Hi, Bob. Welcome.
Thank you. Bob Cantwell, 3 Fifth Ave. I think the title of my comments tonight is Bang for the Buck. And what I mean by that is that this budget will be for this upcoming year, and in the middle of the year, we have an election which every seat on the board, I believe, it will be in front of the constituents of the village. And my comments are with regard to the village board in the budget process. It's possible that many of the people that are currently on the board, or some of the people, won't be on the board, or vice versa. You may have new people. So my comments are relative to the fact that this budget will kind of include both, the 6 months prior to the implementation of the next budget.
It happens every election.
Right, exactly.
When I
So-
was elected in 2019, I got the budget that was worked on by the previous board.
Okay. Can I reclaim those 15 seconds?
Sure.
No, just
I
kidding.
will happily give them to you.
Just kidding. So my comments are, getting back to bang for the buck. We have an opportunity to, every year, the village board there's a line item on the budget that's approximately $100,000. I haven't scrutinized that line item. So over the period of this next election, for a 4-year period of time, that's about a $400,000 item for annual budgets. My question, not to be critical, but my question to the public, not only here tonight, but who may be viewing, as well as the village board, is are we, as residents of the village, getting what we're paying for relative to the village trustees' service? I'm not casting doubt, but my point is that if there's a sense that you either are or not, then I would encourage the public to make sure.
I'm going to ask, is the board okay if I ask for some clarification on that? Can you explain to me what you're talking about with a line item that's $100,000 that has to do with whether you're getting the bang for your buck with village trustees?
Because we have elected you to represent the residents of the village.
Yep.
And that's approximately what the line item is on an annual basis for the village board's compensation. Correct?
I'll ask Megan that.
That includes contractual as well.
Okay.
It's
So, like,
personnel and
I have a
contractual
computer.
expenses, which includes like
There's a
audit
charge
fees.
back for my computer
Okay.
that goes with the mayor.
Yeah. So I'm just,
Sure.
my apologies.
I'm just trying to
Just
explain to you.
Round numbers, I'm just saying that the bottom line, it's important that the residents hold village board members accountable, and that we are getting a bang for our buck. And I'm not casting comments on whether past activities are or are not,
Sure.
truly representative of the village residents, but that's just my comment. And my appeal to residents is to make sure that they are holding your feet to the fire, so to speak, just as any of the other departments in the village. So I do appreciate all the time that's gone in between the department heads and Brian and Megan and the board members and individual departments within the village of putting the budget together. But that's just my comment, basically, to the residents of the village.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much, Bob. I forgot to mention one thing. So that 4% that I mentioned at the beginning, I meant to include also what that meant to you as a taxpayer on an average house in the village. So these are using the assessments that we have in place right now. The town assessments that you may have received will not even come into play with the village for over another year. The average increase is $45 annually for that 4% tax increase. Megan, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The next speaker is Connie Bartolotta, 3 Manor Hill Drive.
Hi, Connie, welcome.
Okay, hi. So, as you all know me, I think first, I want to say that I do understand the budget process, and it is a very complex process, and it's very difficult to navigate explaining that to a lot of people in a couple of hours. So I will acknowledge how difficult that is for you. And I appreciate that we're actually taking care of a problem that has existed for 5 years. And I'm so happy that you acknowledged it on Monday night and came up with a plan. Mission accomplished. I think a lot of people were upset. These are volunteer firefighters, and they deserve our respect. They serve our community like a veteran has served our country, and they deserve more than we have given them. So I want to also mention that I do have to say that proposed and done are two different things. The roofs were in the budget last year, and they didn't get done. And we talk about them this year and next year. So one question I have is, how do we ensure that the things that are proposed in the budget actually happen? So that's one question. The mold remediation, I heard in Monday night's meeting, you said it's planned in this year's budget and that it's $75,000. Did I get that right? Okay. Has that been out for bid?
It's the quoted price we got from the team that's coming in to do the remediation in the next couple of weeks.
Has it gone out for bid?
It is not out for bid.
It's over $35,000.
Okay, I'm gonna
Just
stop.
clarifying.
I'm gonna stop
No,
this
no, I'm
right
just
here.
asking, because the Office of the State Comptroller
I understand.
has a law that says, I want this work to be done. I don't want the village to get in trouble for not following the process, and they
Sure.
understand that.
I do too.
Okay, because you said it was going to be done this year, and we have 2 months left in the fiscal year. So I just,
Starts
maybe it's a
on
good
April
idea,
7th.
but it
Correct.
didn't go out for bid. You're in violation of the law. They understand that. So maybe it's a good idea to put that in the 26-27 budget so that you can follow the process. All of you, and I will tell you this, as a former federal program manager, I spent 2 years in Federal Acquisition Academy. I know this stuff. Your job as an elected official, your greatest responsibility is to ensure that every dollar that's spent is justified and follows the rules. That's it. All the other stuff is secondary. So I appreciate that you understand that, and I just want us to, I want to know that the rules of the game are followed, and that the fire station with the mold remediation and the structural repairs and the equipment needs are addressed. And then lastly, I did an analysis of all fire districts in Monroe County, and Fairport is half of what other fire districts charge. I think that's something this board needs to take up as an agenda item and talk about what is a fair rate. It would solve your budget problems if we were actually getting an appropriate amount, instead of 49 cents, $1, which seems to be the going rate for villages of our size that have volunteer fire departments, would solve your problems with capital improvement projects, maintaining the buildings, and keeping up to date with the equipment needs. So I will hope that the board will take your responsibility, if you love the fire department, that you'll take that up as an agenda item. Thank you.
Sorry, I do have clarification. Since, as you were going through the analysis, just to make sure, you were looking at fire districts or volunteer fire departments? Because I think there is a difference,
There is.
if my understanding is correct.
Exactly. Go on my social media page and look at the fire district table. Monroe County publishes all fire districts in Monroe County. I ranked them from lowest to highest. I think one of them is over $10. Fairport is the lowest. So you can pretty much figure out by the label of the fire district which ones are volunteer. The next highest one, Bushnell Basin, which Parrington uses Bushnell Basin, is $1, and they only pay us 49 cents.
So you combined fire departments and fire districts in the analysis?
Fire districts, they're called fire districts in Monroe County.
No, we have a fire
There's
department.
there is a distinction.
There is a
So I just want to
distinction.
make sure, or am I,
There's
So
a
does
difference
the
between a
rate-
fire department and a fire district.
Well,
A
then
fire
why don't we
district
ask Monroe
operates with their
County
own
to
board.
explain it? No. I would ask you to educate yourselves on the information that's available in
Okay.
Monroe County, because they call Fairport Village a fire district. It's their term.
And they have it wrong.
Well,
I'm
I
not
guess
gonna
you
argue
can
with
take
you
that
about
up with Monroe County, okay? Because I don't make those tables, but
okay.
good
No, I just
job
want
trying to discredit me with a department versus a
is
district. The
different.
bottom line is
Well,
the
But I'm not going
rate.
to argue about it
The
with you,
rate
and I'm going to
Would-
ask you
if you
to
fix
take a
the
seat.
rate, you're interrupting me again. The
I'm
rate.
going to ask you to take a seat. You've now exceeded almost 8 minutes, 9
But
minutes.
you've been talking during the whole time. I'm going to finish my sentence and then I'm
Go
going to
ahead,
wrap up.
finish your sentence, Connie.
Okay. If we look at the rate that we charge, we could solve a lot of our problems with the capital funding. So if you prefer to be, nuanced in the terminology, I think it's worth investigating the rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who's next, Megan?
There's no one else on the list.
That's it? Okay. Well, thank you for the individuals who came and spoke. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Connie. I appreciate your perspective, and we will certainly discuss what you've shared with us this evening. And with that, at 6:19, I will close the public hearing for the budget. We don't vote on this budget until our first meeting in April, so you're always welcome to share information with board members. All of our email addresses are published on our village website, fairportny.gov, and we're more than happy to hear from you, and please feel free to share that. Okay, with that, I believe that our guests here this evening are from Fairport Electric, Superintendent Matt Hegarty, and our financial
Holly Evans.
expert. We'll call, I know you'd like that title. So Matt's here this evening to go through the Fairport Electric budget with us, please.
Good evening. So I'm going to talk very briefly, and then we're going to,
Page number.
my notes started on page 94.
And I'll go there too.
Okay.
Follow along. Thank you, Matt.
Okay. So I'm going to keep this relatively generic as we get into this. Just a couple definitions as we talk about Fairport Electric. Fairport Electric is a distribution provider. We do not generate electricity, we distribute it. We buy our electricity from state of New York, they're the supplier. So our bills that we send out to our customers are made up of two things. The supply, which we have no control over, New York State does, and the distribution, which Fairport Electric does control. So the budget you see has, a $3 million, basically a change in it, and Holly's gonna get into the detail. But when you dig into that, the majority of that, 90% of that change is made up of the supply costs that have changed, that we did not have control over. And the other 10% is made up of New York State retirement charges and health benefits. So, but, those three big items basically make up that large difference. This budget took a lot of work from my staff. We start this budget process in about December as we start to go through this. We meet at least once a week to go through this process. We had an extra challenge this year. We had a new software platform. Like a new software platform, there's challenges with that. I'm going to commend Holly Evans for really, really digging into this and doing an amazing job putting this together. So I'm going to turn this over to Holly, and questions I'll be happy to answer after. Thank you.
Hello, this is the 26-27 budget presentation for Fairport Electric. As you may know, the Village of Fairport owns and operates Fairport Electric. It's one of 47 municipally owned power companies in New York State. The village gives the overseeing responsibility of Fairport Electric to the Fairport Municipal Commission. It runs as a enterprise fund, so it's funded entirely by customer rates. It's completely separate from your tax rates and from the village general fund budget. These customer rates were set by the New York State Public Service Commission based on a minor rate filing that was filed and went into effect on December 1st, 2025. So for the 26-27 fiscal year, we are forecasting to have a $39.5 million budget. In terms of revenues, the majority of our revenues come from those electricity sales. As Matt mentioned, those supply charges are representative of that PPAC revenues. Those are pass-through charges where the revenues and expenses match. That is our largest increase for this fiscal year. We did see them go up about $4 million roughly. And that is most of this budget. It's about 90% of that increase of the 10% is coming from that supply cost that we're anticipating being increasing moving forward. In terms of the expenses, just like we just talked about in terms of the revenues, the expenses are increasing based on that supply charges increase that we have seen over the last few years. We've seen the purchase power adjustment clause continue to increase with the excess power cost that we have to buy the power off of the market that exceeds our hydro allocations. This is 37% variance over the prior year and makes up about 33% of the expenses for the Fairport Electric budget. We also had increases in our debt service related to the transition from a bond anticipation note to a bond for our substation project and our electric meter project that came to completion and is going to be transitioning this May. So in terms of the purchase power adjustment clause, I just wanted to dive into it a little bit further because I know that's the biggest item on this. So in recent years, we have seen that excess power cost, the rate that customers are paying for that additional power off of the market is drastically increasing. We are anticipating a slight decrease compared to what we're estimating for the 25-26 fiscal year. That's because we are not anticipating to have as cold of a stretch.
Holly, I'm just going to pause you for 1 second, whether you do it or whether Matt does it. Can you just explain the difference between the excess power cost and the, just the, what is excess power cost? Just simplify it for us.
So the PPAC, Purchase Power Adjustment Clause, I mean, people in their mind make it up that it's a supplemental power. We get 77 megawatts. We get a portion of hydro, 77 megawatts from Niagara Falls. So day like today, nice spring day, we're under that. But what the PPAC pays for is to get that hydroelectric from Niagara Falls to Fairport. What's also included that when we, cold days, hot days, when we need to buy additional power above the 77 megawatts of hydro, it's also added into that. So there's a lot that goes into that PPAC, hence the volatility. So it's not just the extra power on cold days, hot days. It's the transmission costs and supply costs that we don't have that control over to get the power, Niagara Falls, to Fairport.
Okay, thank you. It's confusing for everybody, so if it's as simple as we can make it,
Yes.
It
and
helps.
Matt does a great job explaining it, so. The remaining, pieces of that purchase power adjustment clause are relatively stable year over year. There have been slight shifts, but in general, those prices have been relatively stable, year over year, and we're anticipating them remaining relatively close to level for next year. This budget also continues our investment in capital plant. So we have a 10-year capital investment plan that incorporates large annual investments to plant maintenance, cable injections, transformers, and operation centers updates that help to maintain the reliability of our system and maintain the good quality power that we are able to provide for the community. Again, just want to mention a few variances that we have. Our debt service, because of the conversion to the bond note, we did have a large increase for the budget for the debt service payments for next fiscal year. Also, because of how our new system has worked, the inventory purchases, that now runs into the capital investment, and the inventory purchases that are expensed out are up in the operating. So that line is not going down to zero. We're still buying inventory. It's just how it's flowing through. So in summary, we're presenting a budget with a 10.06% increase over the prior year, with 90% of that increase related to that supply cost increase. The increase is mostly related to the recent legislation as well as the purchase power trends. The approved rate increase that went into effect on December 1st, 2025 is factored into the budget. We're not relying on any surplus funds that we did in the previous year. We're investing back into our reserves. And the budget continues our significant investment in maintaining our plant to ensure the stable future of the utility.
So one of the things that are really different with the electric budget compared to the village budget is we are 100% dependent on weather. I mean, our budget, we look at basically a 10-year average, what weather should do. If every winter was, the same, it's easy. It'd be like taxes on a house. You get X amount, you know what's coming in. Our volatility, a very cold winter, a very hot summer, maybe it's a warm winter where we don't have the sales, so the budget fluctuates. And it fluctuates, to extreme measures at times. We budget like any other utility on a 10-year weatherization, normalization. So, that's what we base our numbers on. So, as much as we, say if it's exactly these 10-year average of temperatures, well, we would hit these numbers. But any deviation from that deviates. If we have to buy less power, we charge our customers less. So there is some fluctuation in that.
And just to clarify, if we were to have a warm winter for next year and the costs were to come in lower than that 9% increase that we're forecasting, that wouldn't be passed on to the customers. That would be just a reduction in the budget we would have less expenses, less revenue coming in for the fiscal year. It would match revenues and expenses based on the actual weather costs and market costs at the time.
Yeah, the 10% only affects the budget. What we charge our customers is set by our tariff, which is approved by New York State Department of Public Service. And so those rates will now stay in effect until our next rate case, which, couple years, we haven't even started it yet. But typically, they're anywhere from 18 to 24 months after you start one. So we evaluate yearly, do we need a rate case? Are we okay where we're at? So yeah, when we forecast at 10%, that doesn't mean people's bills are going up 10%. It just means our budget, which has that volatility due to weather, we think could go up 10%, if that makes sense. Okay. It's a different concept from the village side, so it does confuse people when, people see 10% and they think their bills are gonna go up 10%. That's not the
No.
case.
It's whatever the market is charging for the excess power.
So,
I have a couple questions
Sure.
that are not directly related to what Holly just presented.
Sure.
There's been a lot of talk about our charging stations in the village. And I know that it's not part of the actual Fairport Electric budget. It's a kind of a separate side item. Can you talk about, just explain to the board that I've sat through the FMC meeting, so I completely understand that program. But could you explain a little bit about that program to the board, how it works, that it's self-funding, and how we figure out
Sure.
what the rate of charge is?
So presently, there's approximately 25 level 2 chargers within the village. There's one level 3 charger. This is the high-speed charger that's across the street. That one is owned, operated, maintained by the New York Power Authority at this point, so we have no control over that one. But the other smaller stations around the village, we own, maintain, and the charge that is per kilowatt hour when you charge your car is a break even. What that pays for, those units, some are approaching, 15 years old, and they have to be replaced. So it's a percentage that get replaced every year. Each one of those is between $1,500 and $2,000, so that's built into that cost. Do we have to replace one or two? It's the cost of power that we think go into those, or we know that goes into them, but we have to do it after the fact. So we set our rates to basically a break even. Then we look at it quarterly, and we'll say, okay, well, maybe more people used it, so we're able to lower it. So we're able to lower the cost. If less people use it and we were losing money in that break-even project, we'd raise that cost. So that the cost per kilowatt hour is evaluated to adjust it to hit that break-even point. Basically, what that cost is supposed to cover is the charger itself, the electricity going through it, and then staff, and this is on a daily basis. We have one will go offline for maybe a networking reason. Maybe somebody ripped the cord out. At nighttime, people, they'll forget, they drive away. It's for overtime to go pick up a cord. All of those charges are built into that program and evaluated, just to make sure it stays as a break even.
And if someone leaves their car beyond the charging period, do they get a notification that their car is done charging?
So they do get a notification that their car is done charging, and they get charged for basically parking there and taking up that spot. Because at times, we know the village gets busy, and maybe there are more people who want to charge their car than available chargers. So what we're seeing is where people would use them as parking spots, especially maybe during events or Friday or Saturday evenings or whenever the need is high for parking. So what that was a deterrent so people didn't stay there for 8 hours or 10 hours or overnight. That when the charging was done, they would move their car.
Okay. Can I ask an IT question, because that's a
Sure.
hot topic? It's in our budget, correct, IT? But it's spread amongst the different departments. So another hot topic of this past year, from this budget to the current budget that we're into, next year's budget, was about coverage for meetings and having them broadcast live. It's a light show.
I thought I was going to work there for a second.
The power just went out, Matt. Gotta go. So can you explain if there will be a change in the IT budget to be able to cover more meetings this year?
So what was included in the 2026 and 2027 budget was the recording of all the meetings.
Okay.
Restoring that funding, yes.
And
So
I
that-
know for Sarah's the only person who was not here last year. We took it out of the budget because that was the only way that we could find to logically lower a little bit of the budget from an operating expense. But it'll be built back in.
It is built back. It's expensive, but it's part of doing business and it's built back into the budget,
Okay.
yes.
So I think that helps for all of us to know that so we can share it with people in our community.
Certainly.
I'm just gonna, does anyone on the board have a question regarding the electric fund? No?
I just think it was great to clarify that this 10% is not in the other budget. Really just say that loud and clear, that this is projected, and if it happens, it's adjusted in your bills. And it does not have anything to do with the village budgets or assessments or any of that. Just making it clear that they're separate.
Correct. A lot of people don't understand, especially town residents, that Fairport Electric is owned by the village. But, as you see, we're a $39 million budget, compared to the village budget. So it is a different type of budgeting, and it's 100% weather dependent. So, but yes, our customers will not see a 10% increase.
Just say that loud.
Well, it just depends on what happens in the marketplace.
Correct.
Actually, but you have no control over that. Are there any other questions from the board?
Just all the new meters and everything that were being replaced last year, working well, happy with them.
Yeah, working great. We're able to, phase one was, getting them out there. They worked very well. We're able to see outages, and now we're going to start to use that data for some of the interesting things. So now we can, on our website, our customers are able to see the outages real time. So if you'll be able to look and say, oh, my neighborhood's out, and eventually we'll get to the point you'll see an assigned crew and maybe a restoration time. We're bringing it into this century. Finally.
Thank you.
So, but yes, that was the first step. Meters are working great. Like anything else. That was a big project. We were able to change 18,000 meters in about 6 months. The team did an amazing job. When we talk to other utilities across the country and of that magnitude in that time frame, they say, no, you're not talking. No way. Our team did it. They did it. So they did a great job.
Didn't you all present to at one of the conferences and talk about the process that you followed, because it was really kind of groundbreaking for a lot of utilities to do them that fast?
Yeah, we presented not just within New York. We actually had part of the team that were invited down to Georgia to present a national audience for the, able to bring the iPads in and teach linemen how to use an iPad to take a picture of the meters and all of the technology that we just applied, things we kind of do normally that no one had thought of to speed up the process. So, thank you.
Thank you for your diligent work to bring us into the 21st century. And Holly, thank you for the presentation of that budget. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Have a great night.
Okay, so from here, we go back into discussions, and if the board would like to discuss something, we can definitely bring it up. If you are talking about removing or reducing something from the budget, I would ask that you have a discussion between. We're all okay? All right, thank you. That we have a discussion between ourselves in terms of what might change, what might not change, and a discussion means talking about how you convince your the rest of the board that what you're proposing is a good idea. So, is there anything that someone would like to kick things off with? just as, while we're thinking about this, just as a point of contact, I'm married to a volunteer firefighter who was injured on the job fighting fires. And Heidi is the daughter of a New York City firefighter. So we all have a little bit of experience on the board with fire service. Okay, so I filled time for a couple of seconds. Does someone have something they would like to talk about? Tracy, do you have something that you would like to talk about? Okay, Adam? Okay.
Nope.
Nothing? Okay. Well, then, I think that concludes the discussion of the budget for this meeting. Jason, did you have something that you wanted to talk about? Okay. All right. Brian, was there anything else that you would like to address with the budget? All right. So I think from there, we're gonna exit and go into an executive session. Let me get the motion. I apologize, I didn't print it out first. Megan, is there anything else that you needed for the budget? Okay, just checking. I would like a motion by the village board to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing the employment history of a particular individual. By trustee Briggs,
Second.
by trustee Nazarian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Then we will enter executive session. For anyone who's joined us this evening, thank you. Thank you to anybody who's joined us at home. And I can share with you.
Thanks, Mike, for being the only person to be here 2 nights for both sessions.
Yes,
Well done.
yes. I know you had something else to do, but Mike sat through a bunch of these meetings. So if you're joining us from at home, or if you're here in the boardroom, we will go into the conference room to hold our executive session, and you're welcome to depart because we're not going to conduct any further business this evening. And it shouldn't be too long of an executive session. I will take the notes, the meeting minutes in terms of